Greetings, everyone. So I haven't made this official yet, but I've really enjoyed doing these sort of decompression videos at the end of our plant spirit journey, not only to share with folks what my experiences have been, what I did as a way to hopefully inspire people and strike up some conversation, but also to open the floor for people to share their own experiences. As a reminder, there's no right way to do this, right? This is relationship-based plant spirit work. So the way that each of us connects to the individual person of the plants that we sit with might call out something different in that relationship. I really think about this as a tertiary relationship, a triangle of power, right? So you have the plant spirit, and then you have sort of that thing that comes out when the two of you work together. So whatever I share, what anybody else shares in the comments, and please do that. Use the comments below to tell stories, to share your experiences, your frustrations, the cool things that happen, questions. That's what this is there to do, is strike that up. Whatever you see, whatever you read, if it doesn't match up with your experience, I'm going to try to say this every month when I do this. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't mean the other person is more right. It just means they had a different experience. And if anything, what we should be taking away from this is the importance of having these relationships. When many of us have a similar experience or receive a similar teaching from the plant, we can start looking at that as a verified gnosis, right? Or a new tradition or a new teaching of the plant emerging. But more often than not, our experiences will be personal. They will be for us as we work with the plant spirit, or they will be how that plant spirit wants us to work for them as we share their medicine and magic with the world around us. So as a little bit of an experiment and an act of radical vulnerability, I'm actually going to scan a page from my notebook that I keep during my plant spirit journeys and attach that as a download below. So if you're curious of what it looks like on my end, how I write things down, do I actually journal? Yes, I do. Pretty much every night that I sit with these plants that we're journeying with, I at least do a line or two. Sometimes it's a scribble or a little diagram. Sometimes it's, I'm tired and I'm not feeling it, but I showed up, right? That's what I write. Because I like to be able to go back as a closing ritual at the end of these months and read back over those pages and say, wow, I covered a lot of ground this month. I've learned a lot of things. I had a lot of experiences, so that I don't dismiss those things, or take them lightly, because even 7-8 days after a really cool experience during a sit or a meditation or being out in my garden with Mint or Yarrow or whoever we're sitting with, it's easy for it to kind of fade like a dream, right? So these journals are important. I just use a regular old spiral bound notebook, and you see just pages and pages and pages of handwritten stuff. And so I'm going to share some of that with you below, just again, for inspiration, for permission to show you that it can be real and raw and not perfect, because mine certainly is not. That's why we're here. A couple of things that I experienced with our sit with Mint that I thought you might find interesting. I'm curious what you experienced. First is that when I did the medicine practice, where we take the tincture in a small dose and really just try to listen from everywhere and see how that medicine moves through our body, I found that it came in obviously really bright, really bold, because it's mint, right? And sort of condensed into a pillar in the center of my body. And I also noticed that the left side of my body and the right side of my body both had different sensations all the way up until today. That never resolved, it never changed. And as I explored that, I never got that there was something wrong, that I was blocked from the medicine getting to one side of my body, rather that Mint was actually working hemispherically, kind of working in the different ways that my brain and my nervous system worked. So at first I was like, oh, I'm a little blocked on this left side. I have some work to do. I'm going to consciously invite that medicine deeper and deeper in every night, be really permissive and intentional. But the lesson ended up being, well, actually the medicine is unfolding bilaterally in different ways. So for me, the left side had a heavier, more dense feeling, and the right side was more light and more open. And the big two takeaways for me with sitting with mint, not to make this very long, first is there was a really pronounced, subtle sensory stimulation, right? That I really felt mint emboldening and awakening and kind of like shaking up my subtle senses, my intuition, my ability to feel a room, to feel a space, to sit with other plants and see how it felt to engage with them just by sitting in their presence, not necessarily vocally, not necessarily like intentionally with inner vision, but just those refined, delicate parts of our senses that reach out energetically and kind of comb the world around us and gather information. Mint really got into those spaces for me. And I feel like, especially that first and second week of our sit, that my intuition and my sense of clarity with other plants really got sharpened. You'll read in my notes that I felt like mint sharpened, clarified, and focused my subtle senses, my intuitive senses. And I am always happy about that, right? When life happens, when stress happens, that's the first part of my body to start kind of shutting down, to getting dull. I think our nature is to start pulling into our core and condensing. And so the subtle goes first, right? And then sort of the peace and the creativity and all of that follows very shortly after. So I'm always appreciative of any time I feel like that gets worked. And then sort of the other side of that coin is that mint really showed the ability to help perceive and receive that subtle information more clearly, and this is from my notes, to refine and to kind of comb or tease out the finer senses, right? Again, the energetic hairs or fingers that move out into the world around us and are always communicating. I imagine them as sort of coming out from my heart center, but they're really just a non-physical sense, just like our nervous system, just like any other part of our sensory body. And so this refining, combing, and teasing out of energetic sensory hairs, which again made me feel simultaneously a little more sensitive, a little more dialed in to the feeling of spaces and relationships, but also more clear and focused and strong and sort of awake in those spaces. So those were my big takeaways, in addition to really just enjoying sitting with mint. This is a plant that I'm lucky enough to have growing in my gardens. And so every day I got to go out and touch them and rub them and smell the fresh mint and bring leaves in and add them to my tea. And, of course, keeping medicine altar for mint was really lovely, and working with the essential oil of mint, the anointing oils, and just kind of bathing in mint all month for me was just a total treat. So I'm curious about your experiences, what you felt, what you didn't feel, where this took you, what came up in your life that maybe you think might be related to doing work with mint, to opening your heart and your world up to this plant spirit. Anything you want to share, the comments below are open to you. Thank you so much, as always, for going along on this journey, to looking so forward and being so excited about our time with Yarrow. And then the month following that, I'm already starting to craft hyssop material for us. So some really good journeys to come. Thanks again. I look forward to hearing from you guys. I'll talk to you soon.